I never thought I would wear a black dress so soon. Not for a party, not for work, but for my husband's funeral. I stood there that morning, looking at myself in the mirror. My hair was still the same. My face looked tired. I was only 21, but I felt much older. That day changed my life forever. That was the day I became a widow. I met Daniel when I was 18. We were both studying in the same town. I saw him outside the library one afternoon. He was helping an old woman carry her bags. That small thing caught my eye. He looked kind. Not just his face, but the way he moved, the way he smiled. I saw him again a few days later at the bus stop. I remembered his face. He said hello. That was how it started. We started talking after that day. He would wait for me after my class. I liked how he spoke. He was never loud, never fast, just calm. We would sit near the lake and talk for hours. It was easy to be with him. He did not try to impress me. He did not talk about big dreams. He just asked me how I felt, what I liked, what I wanted to do tomorrow. That made me feel seen. After a year, we moved in together. It was a small flat, nothing special, but we made it home. We shared everything: groceries, bills, quiet mornings with tea. He liked cooking. I liked cleaning. We were happy. There were no big problems, no big plans either. We just wanted a quiet life. Maybe get married someday. Maybe have kids. Then, one day, something changed. It was a Sunday. We had gone out to buy vegetables. On the way back, Daniel stopped walking. He said he felt dizzy. I told him to sit down for a minute. He did. He smiled and said it was nothing, but he looked pale. I thought maybe he was just tired or hungry. We went home. He rested, but the next day he felt worse. We went to the clinic. The doctor said he needed more tests, blood work, scans. We didn't worry too much at first. We thought maybe it was a small infection, something simple. But a week later, the doctor called us back. I still remember how cold the room felt when we heard the truth. It was cancer, a rare one, the kind that spreads fast. I didn't cry right away. Daniel held my hand and looked at me like he was already trying to say goodbye. But I refused to believe it. I told him we would fight, that people beat cancer, that we had time. He smiled and said, "Okay," but I saw it in his eyes. He knew. The next few months passed in a blur. Hospital visits, medicines, tests. He lost weight. He lost his hair, but not his smile. He tried to stay strong for me, and I tried to stay strong for him. But some nights When he was asleep, I would go to the bathroom and cry. I would cover my mouth with a towel and cry so hard my whole body shook. He never asked me to marry him during that time, but I knew he wanted to. One evening, he gave me a ring, not in a fancy way. He just placed it on the table while we were eating dinner. He said he wanted me to have it, even if we had no big ceremony. I said yes. I wore the ring and felt proud. I didn't care about flowers or music or dresses. I just wanted him to know I was his wife, even for a short time. A few weeks later, we signed the papers. Just the two of us and 2 people from the building as witnesses. He smiled so much that day. His face looked tired, but his eyes were full of light. He said he was happy, even with the pain, even with everything. That was the last good day. After that, his body got weaker. He could not walk on his own. I helped him get to the bathroom. I fed him when he could not hold the spoon. I washed his clothes. I changed his sheets. I did all of it with love, but also fear. Fear of what was coming. He passed away on a Monday morning. I woke up before him, made tea, and came back to our room. He was still. Too still. I called his name. I touched his face. It was cold. I screamed. I screamed so loud the neighbor came in. Then everything became a blur again. Ambulance. Hospital. Signing forms. Answering calls. And then the funeral. That day I wore the black dress. The one I had bought for my graduation party but never wore. I stood near the flowers. I saw people cry. I heard words like, so young and too soon. I didn't cry that day. I couldn't. I felt like I had left my body, like I was watching it all from outside. After the funeral, everyone went home, but I came back to the flat, our flat. I sat on our bed and looked at the pillow he used. It still had the shape of his head, his scent. I lay down next to it and stayed there all night. The days after were hard, too quiet. The flat felt too big, too empty. I could still hear his voice sometimes, in the kitchen, in the hallway. I would turn around expecting to see him, but there was nothing, just silence. People told me to move on, to start again, but I didn't want to. Not yet. I was only 21. I was supposed to be a bride, not a widow. I looked at couples in the street and felt something cold inside me, jealousy, anger, sadness, mixed together. But I still woke up every day. I still brushed my teeth. I still cooked breakfast. Even if I didn't eat it. Even if I sat there and just stared at the wall. I didn't stop. I didn't let myself fall apart completely. He wouldn't want that. Some days, I opened his drawer and looked at his things, his watch, his favorite t-shirt, a small photo of us from a park trip. I didn't know what to do with them. I still don't. But I kept them close, like small pieces of him I could still hold. It's been 3 months now, and I still wear the ring. I don't know for how long. I don't care what people say. I was his wife, even if it was short, even if the world moved on. But I haven't. Not yet. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The days started to blend into each other. I no longer remembered what day it was unless I looked at my phone. Morning came. Night came. But it all felt the same. I did not go out much. I only left the flat to buy food or take out the trash. I kept the curtains closed most of the time. The light outside felt too strong, too alive. People stopped calling after the first few weeks. They said I could reach out if I needed anything, but I didn't want to talk. What could I say? I didn't want to explain my pain. I didn't want to cry over the phone. And I didn't want to hear words like stay strong or time heals. They didn't understand. The worst part was waking up. I would open my eyes and for a second, just 1 second, forget that he was gone. Then I would reach out to his side of the bed. It was cold. And then I would remember everything. The mornings were always the hardest. One day, I found one of his socks in the laundry basket. Just one. I sat on the floor and held it in my hands. It was soft, a little worn. It smelled like him. I cried into that sock until my hands went numb. I did not understand how a life could disappear so fast. A full person, full of laughter and love, now only a memory. A name on a stone. A photo on my shelf. The flat started to feel like a box, too small and too full of his things. But I could not leave. I was afraid to leave. I felt like he was still there, somehow. In the walls, in the bed, in the chair near the window. I talked to him sometimes. I would sit near the window, look out, and whisper things to him. I told him what I ate, what I saw on the street, how I felt. I knew he couldn't hear me, but I didn't care. Then, one morning, I ran out of tea. That sounds small, but it made me panic. Tea was the only thing I still did each morning, the way we used to. I didn't want to break that habit, so I got dressed and went out. I hadn't worn real shoes in weeks. My feet felt strange. The sun was bright and the wind was cold. I pulled my coat close and walked fast. The shop was busy. I stood in line and kept my head down. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I didn't want to answer questions or smile back at strangers. When I reached the counter, I paid quickly and walked out. On the way back, I passed the park near our flat. The same park where Daniel and I would sit on Sundays. The same bench where we once shared a sandwich and talked about silly things. I stopped. I looked at the bench. For a second, I thought I saw us sitting there, laughing, young, full of plans. But when I blinked, it was gone. Just an empty bench. I walked home slowly. That evening, I sat by the window again. I didn't say anything to him this time. I just looked out. The street was quiet. A man walked by with a dog. A child rode a small bike with training wheels. Life was moving on. But I wasn't. 2 weeks later, my aunt called. She was the only one still trying to reach me. She said I should come stay with her for a few days, just to get out of the flat. I said no, as always. But that night, I kept thinking about it. The silence in the flat was starting to hurt more than help. Maybe I needed to hear another voice, even for a short time. The next morning, I packed a small bag. Just clothes and my toothbrush. I didn't take the ring off. I didn't touch any of Daniel's things. I locked the door and walked to the bus stop. I looked back at the flat once before turning the corner. My heart felt heavy, but I kept walking. My aunt lived outside the town. It took an hour by bus. When I arrived, she hugged me tightly. She didn't ask too many questions. She just made tea and sat with me in silence. It was the first time in months that I felt safe in someone's presence. Not because they said the right things, but because they didn't try to fix me. That evening, she showed me her garden. Small, quiet, full of green. She said she worked in it every day. I stood there, looking at the leaves, and felt something shift. I didn't want to talk, but I wanted to touch the plants. So I did. The soil was soft. The air smelled fresh. It was a small thing, but it felt different from the flat. It felt alive. I stayed with her for 5 days. I helped her water the plants. I walked with her to the nearby shop. I even cooked once. Just a simple meal, but it made me feel like I could do something again. My hands remembered how to stir, how to wash, how to set the table. For a moment, I forgot the pain. Just for a moment. When I returned home, the flat still felt empty, but not as dark. I opened the curtains that evening. I let the light in. I sat by the window with my tea. And this time, I said out loud, "I'm trying." I didn't know if Daniel could hear it, but it felt right to say. A few days later, I cleaned the whole flat, not just the surface. I washed the sheets, dusted the corners, opened all the windows. I didn't throw anything of his away, but I moved some things. I folded his clothes and placed them in a box. I still kept his photo on the shelf. I started walking again, just short walks, around the block, to the shop, to the park. I still looked at the bench sometimes. I still saw him there in my mind. But now, I could walk past it without breaking down. One morning, I saw a woman in the shop who reminded me of myself. Young, quiet, holding a bag of tea. I watched her pay and leave. I didn't speak to her, but I felt something, a kind of soft ache. Not pain, something else. Maybe memory, maybe understanding. I still don't know what comes next. I still wear the ring. I still cry some nights. But I'm living again. A little more each day. Not for a new future. Not for anyone else. Just for me. And maybe, in some way, for him too. It took time for my days to feel like mine again. Not his. Not ours. Just mine. I still kept his photo near the bed. I still looked at it each morning. But I also started looking at the mirror again. I brushed my hair. I bought a new sweater. I stopped waiting for grief to leave me. Instead, I started living beside it. The first real change came when I found an old tote bag in the back of the closet. It was Daniel's. He used to carry it when we went to the market. Inside was a pack of chewing gum, a receipt, and a pair of headphones. Nothing important, but still, it brought back a clear picture. Him, smiling under the sun, the bag on his shoulder, humming some tune with the headphones in. It didn't make me cry this time. It made me smile. That night, I decided to do something different. I didn't know what, but I felt like I needed to take one step out of the circle I had been walking in. I remembered a small place near the corner that offered beginner computer classes. It wasn't far, and I had passed it many times before. I checked their schedule online and saw they had an afternoon class starting the next week. The idea scared me at first. Sitting in a room with people, listening to someone talk again. But I signed up. Not because I wanted to be busy. I didn't want to hide from my grief. I wanted to prove that I could learn something new, that my brain still worked, that I could still grow. The first class was strange. I walked in and sat near the back. Everyone else seemed younger. Some were louder. Some laughed with each other. I stayed quiet. The teacher asked everyone to say their name and why they joined. When it was my turn, I just said, "I want to start something new." No one asked for more, and I was thankful for that. I went back the next week, and the week after. I started understanding things I didn't know before. How to type faster. How to make simple presentations. It was not exciting, but it felt like progress. Each small thing I learned was a step. Each time I showed up was proof that I hadn't given up. One afternoon, I walked home after class and passed by a small cafe. I had never gone in before. Daniel and I used to say we would try it one day, but we never did. That day, I walked in. I ordered tea. I sat by the window. I watched people pass by. Some looked tired. Some smiled. Some were alone, like me. I stayed there for almost an hour, just sitting. It felt peaceful. Over time, I began to talk again. Not long talks, just simple conversations. A thank you at the shop, a good morning to a neighbor, a short chat with the woman who sat next to me in class. I didn't tell them about Daniel. Not yet. I didn't want to lead with loss. I just wanted to be seen as someone present, someone still living. One evening, it rained hard. I stayed inside, made tea, and sat near the window. I watched the water fall on the street. I remembered one rainy night with Daniel when we had no umbrella and had to run all the way home, laughing like kids. I didn't cry that night. I let the memory stay, like a photo in my mind. I was learning how to hold the past without letting it drown the present. A few weeks later, I got a message from my cousin. She was getting married and asked if I could come to the wedding. I hadn't been to one since mine, our quiet little paper signing day at the office. The idea scared me. I didn't know how I would feel seeing someone else walk into the life I lost. But I said yes. The wedding was in a different town. I took a train, wore a dress I hadn't touched in months, and packed my bag with care. When I arrived, my cousin hugged me tight. She didn't ask too many questions. She just said she was happy I came. I smiled and said I was happy too. I wasn't lying. During the ceremony, I felt many things, some soft, some sharp. I watched her say her vows and saw how her hands shook. I saw the love in her eyes and remembered how Daniel looked at me when he placed that ring on the table. For a moment, I felt like running, but I stayed. I sat through it. I clapped. I even danced a little. That night back in my room, I looked at myself in the mirror again. I looked tired, yes, but I also looked calm, like someone who had walked through a long, cold winter and was starting to feel spring. It was not joy, not yet, but it was something close. When I returned to my town, things felt lighter. I didn't try to force happiness. I just let the quiet be warm instead of empty. I still missed him. I always would. But I no longer waited for him to walk through the door. I no longer searched for his face in the crowd. He was part of me now, not a shadow beside me. One morning, I found myself humming a small tune. I didn't even realize it at first. It was a sound I hadn't made in so long, and when I noticed it, I smiled. It felt like something new was blooming inside me. Slowly, quietly, but surely. I didn't know what the future would look like. I didn't make big plans. I didn't chase big dreams. I just lived one day at a time. Some days were heavy. Others were soft. But every day, I was here, breathing, walking, learning how to be me again. I was 21 when I became a widow. That truth would never leave me. But now, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't just see a woman in pain. I saw someone who had loved deeply, lost deeply, and somehow kept going.